we depend on like the unions and these other outside forces helping to manage and mitigate the risks that regular creators and even famous creators are just going to undertake just doing regular work.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 72 of the Sandbox Space Weekly Podcast. I am your host, Chris, joined as always by Pumpkin, but not Baby today. Baby is out with her mommy, so she wasn't here last night, so Baby's out and about doing things. And of course, every week we bring a special guest. This week's guest is specialer than the last. Caitlin Burt, who I've known for many years, is an actress, a lot of stuff with motion capture. And just general nerdery, I think. Caitlin, how are you doing this morning?
I'm great, Chris. Thanks for having me on. You rock. Rock star you.
Well, thank you for coming last minute. I was like, my guest was not available for today, so I was like, Caitlin, can you help a brother out? And you're like, sure. So here we go. So real fast, you want to give people a quick rundown about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do work in gaming as a motion capture performer and a voice actor, and I also work at a studio as their business development person, making deals, attending conferences.
Sweet. Well, hopefully the deals are flowing. It's rough world out there these days. So sweet. Well, before we get started, just real quick, I wanted to do a couple fun community things here. The first is the Fallout TV show Writers Room Board apparently is signed on for a Mass Effect show, which is pretty exciting. So I guess the success of Fallout has led, I believe it's Amazon, to want to do a Mass Effect series featuring some of the writers for from the Fallout show. Have you watched the Fallout show?
Yeah, I didn't finish it, but I did watch some of it. I'd be interested if people think one will end up being more popular than the other.
Yeah, they're both. I want to say I don't want to say vastly different, but like vibe wise, they are much different experiences as games. And actually, I read a really interesting, or not read, I watched a really interesting video about how Bethesda has kind of altered the vibe of Fallout since it acquired it. And so even Fallout is different. I played Fallout 1 and 2 when I was a kid, and I can definitely see where they're coming from, where the Bethesda Fallouts just have a different kind of feel to them than the older ones do. But I just thought that was kind of cool. So I don't know. Maybe I love Mass
Yeah.
Effect, so hopefully something interesting will come from that.
Yeah, I
Oh,
feel like the Fallout audience has gained in size over Mass Effect over the years, but depends on how many people jump back on board the Mass Effect train.
yeah, I mean, we haven't had. I mean, Andromeda was the last one, and that was that 2017 or 2018 that was released. So it's been a long time since anything Mass Effect related really came out. So all right. Next up, just real fast, if you're interested, the PlayStation 30th anniversary DualSense controllers have been restocked at the PlayStation Store. So if you care about those, then you can grab that. And then lastly, this is just stupid. I'll post this in the description. There is an 11-page worksheet along with a like tutorial video for getting your Hideo Kojima name. If you want to be like a character in a Hideo Kojima game, then you can fill out this 11-page worksheet. This is on Polygon to get your weird ass Kojima name. So I did not have time to do it myself, but I will put the link in the description if anybody wants to. I guess you could become like a hard man or something.
Does it also give you an entire backstory? Why 11 pages?
I don't know. It says it requires dice. There's personal information, embarrassing childhood memories, the object you'd least like to be stabbed by. So there's a fair number of questions in this document. So I guess if you're bored and you don't have anything to do for 2 hours and you want a Kojima name, then go for it, I suppose.
Well, how do you tease us with that and you didn't make one?
I
Now I
didn't.
want to know.
I
What
know.
would you
I
least
saw
want
it
to be
this.
told about?
I saw it this morning. I didn't realize it was a thing until I was doing some of my like what's going on in the industry thing. So, um,
Okay, well, tell us now, just to satisfy us a little bit, what you would least want to be stabbed by.
oh my God. I don't know. Yeah, a acid covered flaming hot sex toy. I feel like that would be kind of like that gets you the burning
Sounds fun.
sensation, it
Yeah.
gets you the acid sensation, it gets you the stabbing sensation, and it adds a level of embarrassment.
Yeah, and it would take a long time, so it probably
Hmm.
wouldn't be that efficient at the
Yeah,
death part.
yeah, yeah. You probably die slowly. So I think that's
Oof.
probably up there. You know, I think in reality, the thing that not to get too grim here, but like I don't want to burn anything involving burning. I don't. I did a little when I was in my healthcare days. I did like a very brief kind of stint. It was like a couple days um, in the like the ICU, and man, the burn victims are like that's the worst. That is the worst. Um,
Oh.
so that is I would rather be stabbed than burned for sure.
Ooh, I would
And
always say drowning, but maybe burning's probably worse.
oh, I think burning's
God, I
way
don't.
worse than drowning, personally.
I know, but drowning for some reason scares me more.
Yeah. Yeah, what was that? Was that it was like a book or a movie where somebody talks about how drowning is just like falling asleep? And then it ends up happening like a guy almost ends up drowning and he's like, that wasn't like falling asleep at all. He's like, yeah, I know, I was lying to you. I just didn't want to freak you out.
No, I bet it hurts a lot.
Uh I have an irrational fear of anglerfish, so definitely getting stabbed by an anglerfish is a nope. Okay. Good good to know, Kale. Good to know. Okay, so I had as part of my campaign. Oh, real fast. Also, a reminder: GDEX is coming up. 42 days. So, thegdex.com if you want to buy tickets or volunteer, or we still have some exhibitor spaces left. So, plenty of ways to be involved with GDEX this year. So, just a reminder to everybody listening: don't miss out. It should be a really fun year. We got a Bomberman tournament this year. We got some kind of Tetris tournament going on this year. The Bomberman tournament, the winner gets a Bomberman like quilt that is handmade, which is cool. Um, I'm talking about maybe some musical acts. Haven't confirmed any of that yet, but still chatting. Lots of cool stuff this year. So hopefully
What
you
are
can.
those days, Chris? What are the dates of the show?
Those days are September 4th through the 7th. September 4th is a Thursday, and that is our dev day. So our official like expo days are Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 5th through the 7th here in beautiful Columbus, Ohio. And I looked at the weather
Mhm.
yesterday, and I know we're more than a month out, but it looks like it should be really lovely. High 70s, low 80s. So, and there's no, well, I was going to say there's no road construction like there was last year. So that part is true. However, Columbus always has road construction. So depending which way you're coming from, there will be some sort of construction. But I'm really excited this year. It's going to be on a really nice weekend. There shouldn't be any big competing events. And we are teamed up with CorgsCon, which is a retro gaming and collectibles show. So there's going to be a lot of that kind of activity happening as well over the weekend. So yeah, Kaylin, you've
Would
been
you
to
ever
many a GDEX.
have? Yes, I love the arcade games you put out last time. That was super fun. The
We're gonna
panels
we're
were
gonna have those
instructive, and
again.
you could just go to any of them. Lots to walk around. The caliber of games that was there was really surprising. So I was like, we have this kind of local talent, like, and I know the local talent, and they came and they showed up and exceeded my expectations with the quality of their games and the quality of their marketing. Like, people are getting savvy, and it makes me so proud.
Yeah, there are a lot of really awesome games. They're getting better and better. And this year we have got Tomb Water coming back, which it was a game of the year 2 years ago. And they've just released. So they are bringing back their released version. Um, and then we've got, I think Mole Maiden is going to be there in some capacity. And that should be released by the time GDX rolls around. They were there last year. And I think, did they win Best Sound last year? I should know this, but my brain doesn't work anymore. Um, And so we've got a lot of really cool people. The Skookum guys are back with their really cool like I don't know if you remember, it's like the director on set game where it's like a mystery kind of thing, but it's involving like
Mhm.
a stage, like a movie stage
Yeah,
thing. So they're coming
that
back. A lot of cool stuff. A lot of cool stuff this year, and we're gonna have some really great talks. We've got Unity coming again to do some good talks. I haven't confirmed yet, but I believe Xbox is coming, and then I have a call on Friday about our potential keynote speaker. That if we're able to lock that down, will be one of our biggest speakers we've ever had. So excited about that.
that is so cool. Yeah, the Skookum guys did. They used a lot of mocap in both their games. They had the pedestrian. I think they
Yep.
used their mocap system for that too. Yeah, those are great. Did you play Cyber Rail?
I did not play it, but I saw it.
Okay, I hope that guy's game is finished because that was one of my favorites that was
Yeah.
there.
All right.
When still needs to come out, and also for people to make them playable on Mac or Steam Deck, please.
Uh, yeah, totally. We've got to. This is just a weird year. This is a rough year with all the layoffs and stuff going on in the industry, and so a lot of people are kind of tapped on cash. There's a couple like longtime GDEX folks that aren't sure if they could make it this year, which kind of makes me sad, but I totally get it. But we've also got a bunch of new games that I'm excited about. And so we both next week we should have the draft schedule, or I should say like the first version of the schedule, and the speakers and most of the exhibitors up online for people to check out.
Woohoo! Very
Sweet.
cool. September is perfect. All of my favorite con memories are from September conferences.
Nice. Yeah.
PAX West, everything. It's always just perfect weather. You do so much stuff outside, just the long walks to get there. You can stroll and take your time, and it is that much better when it's not pouring rain or freezing.
Hmm.
Like PAX East, oh my God, Boston in
Oh God.
like March was yeah.
Oh yeah. I was there. It was like I don't know 2016 or 17 when that big blizzard came through, and it was like 6 feet snow drifts just everywhere, and like no cars could go anywhere, so you had to walk everywhere. It was it was like the apocalypse. It was awful. Um, all right, sweet. So I know we probably only got another 20 or so minutes with you because you're a busy lady changing the world. So I wanted to get your take on this. Um, I found this really interesting. So Ashley Birch, the actress slash voice actress, she does Aloy as well as a variety, a bazillion of other characters. She does multiple. I've been playing Fallout 4. She does multiple characters in that. Um, a little while ago, a like internal kind of video from Guerrilla Games leaked that featured Aloy as the character doing, animations and voiceover in which Ashley Birch was not a part of. So they used AI to create her voice and movements within the system. Now, this is kind of like a two-part question. The first was that Guerrilla Games was like, hey, this was internal use. It was not meant to be put out anywhere. We were just testing some things out. So, sort of the first question is like, they own the IP, right? Like, where does that line exist where they're allowed to use the things that they own? But the second part, and this is the more interesting question, I think, is what she mentioned was that when you are doing any kind of acting, really anything in an industry, you're always working yourself up from the bottom. And you kind of have to take the opportunities that are presented to you so you could start to gain experience and learn, make contacts, build your network, all that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, particularly with areas like voice acting, motion capture, stuff like that, a lot of that low level stuff is being done by AI, which means a lot of actors are not getting the experience to be able to go in and even do basic stuff like, action barks and, NPC voices and things like that. So they're not getting that opportunity to gain experience. They're not like getting the experience of being in a sound booth, working with a voice director, any of that kind of stuff. And so all that low to mid range positions are just starting to fade away due to things like AI. So those are my double barrel questions for you, Caitlin. I'm curious your thoughts on what Ashley Birch was talking about.
Well, as for the second part, I might have to clarify what your actual question was in there. But as for what kind of legal grounds the company might have treaded on with her in that instance, it's like they own the IP of the character, right? But they do not own your image and likeness unless they pay for it for a certain usage. So in her contract, she should have something. I would have something like you cannot use my image, likeness, voice, performance to train any AI or any AI outside of this instance to keep them from doing internal tests that could leak and then be used to train other AI. And then you got a barrel of monkeys where you're trying to track down your image, likeness, and
Hmm.
maybe sue people or letters cease and desist everywhere. And that would be an absolute mess for a
Yeah. And
performer.
there really is nothing
So
worse than a barrel of AI monkeys. Like that's just you're getting into it then.
because they never get tired.
Yeah.
They just keep monkeying.
Yeah, you just keep it's just monkeys all the way down at that point. Um
And the monkey wrenches they would come with. My God.
yeah, yeah, they all come with at least one monkey wrench. Um yeah, I think that I don't know I'm not a lawyer man and I don't know the intricacies of her agreement. And also I think that I mean when did the first Horizon come out? Um it's been it's been a while, so a lot of this was even pre thinking about AI in this way. And so some of that stuff is kind of brand new. I'm looking it up here. 2017, February 28th, 2017. So that was, I mean, we weren't talking about AI 8 years ago in this way at all. So that might not even been a consideration. Um, but yeah, I think there's a weird dynamic that's always existed in the creative space, and maybe you can kind of speak to the line on this or the delineation between like an actor portraying a character based on scripts and content and everything that is given to them, but also like I've heard people in the industry be like 3D modelers, like that was my creation, right? I created that 3D model, and they're free to use that 3D model however they want at any time. Where's my love? They might say. But there is a distinct difference between sort of I don't know what you call it, like the characterization that actors create as opposed to the assets that developers create. I mean, how do you see that sort of like distinction?
There's a lot of components to it. So, like, Marvel owns Thor, right? But they don't own Chris Hemsworth outside of all of the instances of Thor where he agreed that his image and likeness they could use and do whatever with. So, like, that's why the Marvel Rivals Thor doesn't look like Chris Hemsworth. So, in terms of like what Ashley Birch experienced with her image likeness kind of being taken years after the fact, we depend on like the unions and these other outside forces helping to manage and mitigate the risks that regular creators and even famous creators are just going to undertake just doing regular work. There's little that we can do to be like, hey, my model, you train the AI with it. Where is my love on that? They might just ignore you. So, as much as we can collectively kind of put the right leaders in place who are going to set the rules and expectations and guidelines in place that people will actually feel are enforceable and different marketplaces, different companies hold themselves to.
Yeah, yeah. I know the SAG after just finalized their strike, I believe, right? So I think that was a
Yes, yes, the
long
video game
ongoing
strike is
effort.
done. It was a
Yeah,
very long strike.
it was. It was. Were you impacted by that at all personally?
Um, well, every union performer, yeah, was not allowed to work for any of the struck companies. So it cut me out of all of that work for all of that time. Any possibility of getting it.
Yeah. All right. Pumpkin, I'll put I know. I know. Okay. Well, then let's talk about the second one because I think that this for me is the more I don't want to say it's the more interesting. Like I leave the IP kind of stuff to the lawyer people, though always interested in that conversation. But since I work with tons of small studios, voice acting and music composition is a really big area that GDEX hits on because a lot of people are interested in that, content creation as well. But I did find it really interesting, sort of Ashley Birch's take on it, where if AI is replacing all of these, like, let's just say NPC for a moment, right? Like there's a game, Pumpkin. Show me here. Sorry, 1 second. She's getting in trouble. Hey.
Yeah, I think I know where you're going with that. My kind of bottom line thought is that acting is a very hard profession no matter which way you want to look at it, and it'll probably survive. It has survived many other shifts, and it'll never stop being hard. It might be a thing that makes it even harder, and people will still continue to try to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think ultimately that's the issue with AI is that it's theoretically the amount of productivity that you can get out of it as opposed to hiring people to do work, whatever that work is, truck driving, acting, whatever, is at some point it's going to become impossible to justify hiring, 300 actors to do something when you can hire 20 actors and AI will fill in the other 280. It just becomes an economics game at that point. I'm not saying that the product will be better in any way, but I think we've seen in the games industry that a lot of companies unfortunately don't give a shit if the product's better. They're just trying to, decrease their risk, as it were. But I just thought and concern is, well, one, we're not setting up a society that's capable of functioning in that way where, 50% of your base can no longer find a job, but that's like more of a politics question. But just from like a creative standpoint, from people who want to get in the industry, want to be involved, it just seems like it's going to become so much harder to find those little opportunities to do little voiceover roles and little, just be a part of something. Because why would somebody hire a relatively inexperienced new voice actor if they can just do it on AI from their studio? Do you see what I'm saying? Maybe. Oh, did we lose you, Caitlin? Did we lose me? Did we lose everybody? Am I still here? Can you guys hear me? Okay, you can still hear me. Okay, so we lost a Caitlin somewhere. Oh my God, was she AI generated? We can say hi to Pumpkin while we're here.
Oh,
Oh, we're back.
no. So sad internet dropped out.
Yeah.
Um,
I wasn't sure if you were
Society
maybe
not
AI and I was asking the hard questions and you were just like, oh, I got to get out of here.
dodging the question. No, society not able to handle it at this point. That's the last thing I heard you say.
Okay, so that was part of the sort of more politicsy side of it, which is, as the size of your society increases the population, but the job opportunities are decreasing. Like, I'm not anti AI at all. Like, I think if we can use AI to remove a lot of the menial tasks, and there's certain things in healthcare where AI is just like way better at than a human. Like, let's do all those things. That sounds great. But we do have to acknowledge that by doing those things, we have now removed avenues of opportunity for people, which means there's going to be less jobs overall, less income potentially coming in for individuals and families. But my the question I was more interested in you is just like, how are people going to find those opportunities? Like, why would a studio hire a relatively inexperienced new voice actor when they could just get the same result or a similar result using AI for far less effort?
Well, there's always the reflection of what the marketplace actually needs right now. So we can speculate about the future. We could be totally wrong or whatever. But right now, say a local company needs someone to talk about, I don't know, the hardware store. Someone's got to do that read, and they could have AI do it, and it might sound like AI, and people are like, "Man, this just does it isn't doing it. We're tuning out, or we can't get it to get the read right. We're spending so much time trying to like get some nuance into this thing. We should have just hired a person." What voiceover, especially in a commercial sense, actually likes right now is really imperfect reads. They don't want you to sound like an announcer. They don't want you to sound like a professional. They want you to sound like a normal person talking to your friend. So inexperienced or new actors or just regular people, not regular people because they think they can voice act, but they can't. Those people are the best at it. You're like novice actors. They clean up those jobs, and I listen to those ads, and I'm like, how do there's the weirdest pronunciation of words I've ever heard, and they got the job.
Yeah.
So there's certain things that like AI is a mismatch for, and what people are actually looking for. On social media, people try to like have AI avatars read the script or whatever instead of an actual spokesperson, and I'm like, I can see commercially or in a training video sense some industrials how this will work, but if you're trying to get attention, you want to look at a real human. Almost every human is going to think that way. The only way for AI or people using AI to compete then is to make their message or their avatar or something about it weird as heck, so people are like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Or the AI is so, I don't know, maybe it's so good looking that they're like, is it AI? And that's all they're thinking when they're watching it. That's the retention is they're trying to figure out if it's AI or not.
Yeah.
But it's not immediately fulfilling the needs of the market right now in those entry level places. Maybe in the video game sense where it's like those one lines and stuff. Maybe, but a lot of times, like I guess this is going more into animation. There's going to be a bunch of the cast on a show who are able to do many voices each, and it's still easier to just get their creativity and do it. What the company could do if they really wanted to cut their costs, whatever, would just be to steal and train those voices. But hopefully, it ends up becoming very illegal and very catchable if they did that.
If they, yeah, I mean, I don't know. We're just talking here, right? And I'm kind of in this space where, like, if I pull up a YouTube, actually, I was doing one this morning. I was like, oh, here's a YouTube video. It sounds interested. And within the first like 10 seconds, it sounded like an AI voice to me. I was just like, I'm out. I just not interested in, and it's not even that it's necessarily AI, because I think there could be really good content made using AI voices, particularly amongst like, let's say a non-native English speaker who is trying to broaden their reach. And so they could create a list and then have it converted into English, and then the AI could read it. But I just personally, I'm more interested in hearing a person talk who I can tell is actually like thinking through what they're talking about instead of just, maybe rotely regurgitating, some script or something. But I just, my concern about this and sort of what's going on is the worry that people are just not going to be able to get some of those opportunities that they were able to get before. But maybe this will open up more opportunities somehow? Question mark. I don't know. I do not know the answer to that. Nobody knows the answer
It's
to
so
that.
crazy. I think about it a lot too, because as a content creator, I'm always looking at like what is the appeal of this content, and sometimes it'll be an AI voice, but then I'm like, but the content is really good. Like a person really wrote this and thought through it, and it's
Mm-hmm.
great. And then, or you'll have a real actor, real content creator reading a script that they obviously used AI to write, and it kind of takes something away where I'm like, that doesn't sound like your voice. It sounds like AI, kind of like weird speak, and you're wearing sunglasses and reading the script off to the side of your phone. So
Yeah. 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 I feel you. I think ultimately, like, I can't, I don't know if we're going to get AI to the point where it's sort of the Star Trekian world that a lot of the AI people are talking about, the Chat GPTs and Groks and OpenAI and all that. Actually, I don't know if you saw Apple a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, released a white paper, and Apple was pretty much like, none of these AI models do what they say they're doing. Like, they're really good at kind of faking actual general intelligence, but they're just really good pattern recognition machines. And we're probably 10 years off at least from like really solid general AI. So
Mhm.
we're not quite there yet, and maybe we won't ever get there. There's also a power issue where it's like the amount of electricity needed to like run some of these models is pretty insane, or at least
Yeah.
train them.
Yeah.
Um, but I just, it feels to me when we see like the tens of thousands of layoffs happening in the games industry, combined with the lack of potential opportunities and hiring of people, it seems like there's going to be a lot of unemployed, hurting game devs. And I'm using dev very broadly, right? Anyone involved in the games industry here.
Mhm.
Uh, it's I don't know. It seems like it's going to be a wild and woolly world coming up here.
Does. And I'm looking forward to the GDEX panels, any that address this issue or forward thinking, looking at pros and cons and stuff.
Yeah, I think we are going to do an
But there is
AI
more.
panel for sure. I'm not quite sure.
Good, good.
I'm still thinking about what it will look like as I piece it together. But um,
Well, let's do one positive then, so at least we're well
sure.
rounded, and then we satisfy all the pro AI people and the capacity to boost productivity and creativity is real. I mean, I have, like many content creators, always been bogged down by editing so
Hmm.
much. And editing is a real skill that, like, if you're making a movie, you absolutely need a
Oh,
real
totally.
human to do. But if I'm gonna like just want to focus on the performance and improvise 10 different characters in an hour, and then looking at those 10 different characters is going to take me forever just to even get that project in the editor and want to spend the time. So if I throw it in an AI editor and see what clips it gives me, it's still a real human coming up with real stuff with a real human brain. And I did my own setup with my camera and stuff with my own real human arms, but AI picked what clips they thought would be best, and that's the only way I'm going to get that project finished in the near future. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I'll never do it.
Yeah, I have got a backlog of like 30 Let's Plays that I've made for my campaign that I'm just like, oh, I got to go in and edit them. And I just haven't gotten around to it. And the editing I do is generally pretty simple. So I totally feel you. Um, well, I know you had a 10:30 meeting, right? And we're 4 minutes past. So I don't want to keep you.
Yeah, yeah, we can start wrapping up. They gave me a little extra time.
Okay. Well,
They might even be
did
watching.
you have
So.
last thoughts or anything you wanted to talk about before we wrap up our shorter episode today?
Well, you were gonna start to talk about your campaign and the rest of the cool stuff you got going on in life, and then we just promoted GDEX for like a while.
That's what we do. Are you pivoting? You pivoting to my stuff? Is that what you're doing? Um, yeah. I mean, I campaign's going, trying to do things. I was in the Culture, Faith, and Politics podcast. I was on that Friday, which is really exciting. We talked about some of this stuff. I think we're going to do another episode, actually, funny enough, fully about AI, or at least AI and jobs and things like that. So I'm kind of excited about that. Uh, and then, yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is relevant, but I think I'm going to start doing, I haven't figured out what I'm going to call it yet, like open office hours or digital drop in or something. So Sundays at 10 o'clock Eastern for an hour, I'm just going to sort of stream, and people can come and ask questions and talk about, politics or whatever you want to talk about. So, I'm trying to get that organized. I don't know if I'm going to do that on Twitch or YouTube. I'm not sure what
Mm.
the right way to do that is. Probably YouTube, but
Or
yeah,
just StreamYard it, do both.
yeah, I could do that too. Um, but yeah, I mean that's kind of what I'm sort of thinking about. I don't know. I'm working all the time, Caitlin. There's a lot going on here. Uh,
I
but
know, I can tell you're like going a mile a minute, but like at genius level, like not many people are really capable of spinning all the plates that you spin. So my one question about your campaign and what you're starting to do, I don't know a lot about that side of the world. I went to like the Lansing Capitol, went to like one legislative vote on something. At some point, it was for Comedy Central. It's the only reason I was there, was working. And you said you're not a law guy. So, but as that would still be considered a public servant, right? Like
Yeah.
the Senate, like state Senate.
Yes. So it's
So,
it's federal Senate, U.S. Senate, but yeah, it's public service for sure.
okay. Okay. So is there a certain amount of like, do law and politics go together? Do you know a lot about the law, or would you have to do what you're trying to do, or is that not how it works?
Yeah, so they definitely go together. It's one of the reasons why there's so many lawyers that run for Congress and Senate. It's because it's sort of a natural flow to it. Um, but also in like the actual like boots on the ground legislating is, I mean, you're making laws, right? I would be creating and voting on laws that would be, passed. So yeah, those two things are very linked. The argument I've been making, though, as well, is that if we are only bringing in like lawyers and quote unquote general politicians into Congress, then there's a giant swath of pumpkins very needed. Yeah. There's a giant swath of the economy and society and culture that's just not being represented. And so video games, I think, if you take video games and technology, for example, two things that I do, that's like my livelihood. Uh, Most people in the Senate do not understand the basics of how the internet works, how apps work. They certainly don't understand video games as an industry. So I think simply by just me being me in that respect, it opens up a lot of information that could be provided to Congress to make smart plans on things like AI and things like in-app purchasing and e-commerce stores and all that kind of stuff. Plus, on top of it, I just think having somebody that understands video games and technology would be probably pretty useful to a functioning government. Uh,
Well,
yeah,
especially coming from the perspective of a businessman and an educator, I
yeah.
think it gives you the
Well,
right legitimacy and perspective to put on it.
yeah, that was a conversation I had with another person. So was talking to someone who's been in Democratic politics for like decades, and we were talking about, in essence, it was, and this shouldn't sound surprising to anybody. This happens in politics, but it also happens in other stuff where it's like this sense that like, oh, you want to be a part of this, in this case, the Democratic Party, but it could apply to anything. You have to work your way up, right? And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense on one end. Like, you got to put your time in, you got to make connections to people, the people have to know that you're serious about it. But the other side of that coin is, are we only going to elect people that have been politicians for 10, 15, 20 years? Because then again, there's a giant swath of society. What if you were a teacher, right? What if you were, like you said, a small business owner? Like, I've spent the past 15 years being a small business owner. And so I understand a significant amount about starting a business, running a business, keeping it alive. Um, are Is that not valuable information and expertise to have at a congressional level? And my argument is it is. And so we should be kind of, in my humble opinion, the purpose of public service is that you bring your experience and your knowledge into public service. You serve in a role in public service for some amount of time, and then you go back to your private life. Like, public service was never designed to be this like 30-year, career where you're in Congress forever. So I've been telling people my goal. So this is a special election. So I would be senator for 2 years, and then it would have to be another election. So my goal has been like, I'll do the 2 years, and then I'll probably run again for another full term. And Senate is 6 years, so that would be 8 years. And at that point, I would see where it goes. Like, maybe I would do another term, or maybe I would just come back to my life in the video game world. And I'm never going to give up my video game world life. I'm just going to have to make some readjustments. But I feel like we need more people that have experience other than politics and law, and judging, to bring to Congress Like imagine a farmer, right? Like a farmer is going to have an insane amount of knowledge about how farming and agriculture works that a lawyer is just not going to have. So
Mhm.
I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
No, in a beautiful way. And I'm so glad that I asked it. And like a politician, you just have like this really eloquent,
it's
interesting answer.
it's really funny. That's a podcast I did on Friday. If people are interested, I guess I'll post it. It's not really relevant to the video game space here, but I'll post it in the show notes. Uh, but and some of the comments, people are like, oh, Chris is like a really like articulate speaker, like he's really good at messaging and stuff. And I was like, yeah, it's because I'm not trying to like workshop something. I'm just telling you what I think is happening. Like I'm not trying to couch a message in some way that I think will be receptive to the voters, right? Um, I've had a couple conversations. This sounds a little silly, but I've had a couple conversations with folks in the political world where I can see on their face they're not quite sure how to deal with me. Like they're not sure how to like interact with me because I'm not trying to be a politician. I'm not trying to work my way up through the ranks. I'm just sort of I'm in this because I want to make the world better. I want to create a world that I want to live in and that I want people like my niece to live in and that I want you to live in, where we can have meaningful lives and be able to, express ourselves and grow and learn without feeling like if we make a mistake, we're going to be bankrupt and destitute. Um, so I think
You
it's
are
our,
naturally a good communicator and leader, though.
yeah,
You got to give yourself props there.
so I'll say thank you. But I also push back a little bit because one of the things I like to remind my students is that a lot of this stuff, these are just skill sets. Like I'm naturally an introvert. If it was up to me, sitting on the couch with my dog and my cat playing video games, like would be great, right? But I've learned how to. I used to hate public speaking. I would be terrified of it. But I've learned over time how to do it because I keep doing it and I keep putting myself in positions where I get better at it. And then the stuff I talk about, I try to make sure like I understand what I'm talking about because that breeds confidence. Like if you know what you're talking about, and I'm not talking like in an arrogant way, right? Where it's like, I know everything. I don't know shit, right? I just say stuff. But um if you feel confident in what you're saying because you've done the work of understanding it, it makes it easier to have a conversation. And if you're not trying to like trick somebody or win, like I'm not trying to win an argument here. Like you and I were just chatting, and that's how it was on the podcast. But even with people I vehemently sort of disagree with, I always remind them, it's like, dude, I'm not your enemy, man. I'm not trying to trick you. Like, I'm actually trying to make the world a better place for you. It's maybe just you and I have different ideas of how to get there or whatever. But thank you for the compliment. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
you're welcome. You deserve it. And you're talking about having to kind of work your way up and be in politics for a long time to succeed, but you've done so much of your own work that you can leverage. And I think your expansive network you can greatly borrow from. And I think someone you could maybe want to talk to
Sure.
that could help.
I can always use more friends. Yeah, it's funny. I'm
Uh,
viewing. Okay, awesome. I'm viewing this almost as like a startup company where I'm just like, okay, we need to build our network out. We have to build our operations. We need our branding, our website, like our email address, things like that, so it looks good. But really, just like any startup, it's always like, or probably you experienced this when you were getting started in your acting career, but it's like the first gig's always the hardest, right? Getting that first client, getting that first job. And so for me, it's like, okay, can I get on some podcasts and interviews? Because that will get me in front of people. People will be asking me questions. It'll help sharpen my responses to things. And then other people will hopefully see that and then be like, oh, just like what happened now, where you're like, oh, I think I have somebody I want to connect you to, right? And the other thing that I'm doing that's really interesting that I think is blowing some politicians like fucking minds is uh in the games industry, we are not like so protective of our contacts. Like they're not like these sacred things. Whereas I think in the movie industry, a lot of times they are. In politics, they definitely are. But in the games industry, it's always like, oh, I know this person. Would you mind doing a warm intro? And as long as the person's like kind of we feel like they're good natured and they're being honest, like, yeah, well, I'll connect you to that person. And so I'm doing that. I actually had somebody else who's thinking about running for Senate. They reached out to me and they're like, hey, I just want to let you know I was thinking about running for Senate. Hopefully this can be kind of cordial or whatever. And I was like, yeah, man, the more the merrier. You want to go get a coffee? And like, so I'm kind of blowing people's minds because I'll connect you to whoever, right? Like, you want to be connected because at the end of the day, I don't feel like this other senator, for example, I don't feel like his success is going to detract away from mine, even though we are kind of in a competition with each other because there's only 100 senators in the whole country, right? 2 per state. So it's a pretty competitive gig, right? But the way I look at it is if I can't get people excited about my ideas and my vision, then maybe I shouldn't be senator to begin with, right? If somebody else is better at this than I am, then they deserve to win. So that's the way I look at it, is like, if 2 of us are on a podcast or on a panel and the other person comes off way better and more interesting, then that should tell me something.
Dude, if we had one representative of the gamer industry as a whole, imagine if you had the vote of every gamer.
Yeah.
You'll have to look at like Scott Pressler or someone to figure out how he does like the numbers game to influence elections. And yeah, you did some of that math. It'd be really interesting.
Oh yeah, that's something too. It's like I'm really letting people know that like I'm here to advocate for the industry, not as like a lobbyist, but just as somebody who understands the industry and is trying to make it better. Um, but also there are some folks like I need to reach out to Matt Pat from Game Theory. He's gotten involved in some politics stuff lately.
Mhm.
So I'm going to reach out to him. And then another thing that I remind people is that even though I'm running as a senator for Ohio, so you have to be in Ohio to vote for me, you don't have to be in Ohio to support me. Like, you can still donate to the campaign. You can still spread my social medias around. You can watch my podcasts or any of the interviews that I do. So there's lots of ways for folks who are not in Ohio who might be excited about having a gamer, game dev senator, out there.
It sounds sexy. I want that in our government for sure.
Oh, well, we're trying our best. And I also think ultimately people are just sick of the BS and they want folks that they can trust. And I joked, somebody said the other day to me, they were like it's so refreshing. It's just such a breath of fresh air to have somebody that like talks like a person and can communicate well, and you can have a conversation with. And I was like, well, thank you. I appreciate it. But I was like, isn't that sad? Isn't that sad that like that's not even the bar these days? Like, to get up to that is the bar. We're not even talking about like ideas or vision or competency. We're just talking about the ability to have like a normal person who can talk to people. But
Mhm.
that being said, that's kind of where we're at in the world. And so I'm going to do the best I can to listen to folks. And I let people know too, I'm running as a Democrat. I use that phrase specifically. But I've had really great conversations with, Republicans, and I had a cool conversation with a libertarian the other week. And I don't really care, because also, to be honest, I don't think Democrat, Republican, conservative, like, those things don't mean anything anymore. They're not really, particularly on the right now. We're getting into a whole politics thing, but on the right, the terms conservative and Republican don't have any like ideological underpinning right now. And I would argue that the Democrat term also is very, very loose. So like, if you were to sit down and be like, take a survey of what you think a Republican is, like 100 people would give you 100 different answers, which is weird because that's what a political party's like. A political party is supposed to be a set of values and priorities in which people who agree with those join to help push those values forward. It's not supposed to be a force that you feel obligated to join so that the other guy doesn't get into power. And unfortunately, that's kind of where we are. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it does. And from talking to people, I feel like almost everyone, when you really get into conversation with them, has mixed views.
Mhm.
So very few people are purely on one side or the other, even if they think they are or try to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. Well, this red, blue, left, right, one side or the other, it's all bullshit. Like, it is a sort of reaction to the electoral college and how our election system works, it's not really a reflection of how people think and feel. And so it's just sort of like, because of the way our system is set up, it puts you into these camps. But there's a really awesome article. I got to find it. I got to dig it up. But it asks people, I forget what it is. It's like the top 20 or top 30 important issues. What do you feel on things like abortion or letting kids stay on health insurance until 26, or, guns or whatever, right? And it turns out it's like 60 to 80% of Americans believe the same thing on every question. Like we are very much in line with both the goals and many of the solutions. But here's the trick: is as soon as you reword those questions where you add in a political party or a politician. So instead of saying like, do you think children should be able to stay on their parents' health insurance until 26? You say, do you agree with Barack Obama's policy that children should stay on there? As soon as you include the word Barack Obama in there, the numbers drastically change, because people become, ideologically rigid. Even if they agree with the policy, as soon as they hear Barack Obama, they're like, F that guy, even if they agree with the policy. So
Yeah.
finding a way around
Well,
that is important.
yeah, there's the people who make the rules, and then there's an influence who makes the rules, and then there's everyone else. And most of us have a very similar lifestyle when you contrast it with the people who are trying to pull the strings. So we have a lot in common. The
Totally.
rest of us.
I always say, like, it's not us against them, right? It's not us against each other. It's sort of us against them, because the system has been set up in a particular way, and it is not. What's the George Carlin? It's like it's a big club or whatever, and you're not in it. Like normal folks like us, we are not allowed in this club, and that system was set up intentionally as it is. But the beauty of it is, the exciting part is that we have the numbers. We can set the system up however we want it to be, and we can set it up so that it works to benefit all of us. And the funny thing is, you mentioned a little bit ago, but like the funny thing is like almost all of the ideas and implementations of a lot of these changes actually benefit the rich as well. It's just they don't want to lose their money and their power to do it. And you're just like, well, if you guys could be just like a little less greedy, just like a little bit. We don't need a lot of it, but just like a little bit, then we could actually do some really, really powerful things. And that's besides the fact, I'll rant here for a second, but like just how gross some of this stuff is. Like, I've got one of my good friends, my best friend, is going through cancer right now. And one of our, we've had a couple deaths over the past few years. And it's just like, when somebody that you really care for is dying and they're in the hospital and maybe it's their last couple of days, it's like the time that they should be spending with your loved one, holding their hand, talking to them, whatever, you're spending filling out insurance forms and talking to, calling your insurance company and trying to get all this stuff pre-approved. And it's pretty gross that we allow this stuff to happen when it doesn't provide any value to us as people. It provides shareholder value to insurance companies, but it doesn't provide us any value. And so I think there's a lot of things that we can do to just, I don't know, people say even the scales, but just set everyone up so that like your success is my success and our success is the success of, the people who come after us. But I don't know, maybe that's my hippie way of
Yeah.
looking at the
Yeah.
world. Who knows?
Yeah, no, if we empower good people, it's probably the only way to get there. I
Mm,
mean, there were times where landlords had so much more power than tenants that the courts eventually were like, well, these aren't valid contracts if they don't have some kind of equal power. So,
yeah. Well, you
but you
mentioned,
can't have like, I don't know.
before we got started, you mentioned like a lawsuit, and you don't have to get into it, but I sued my first lawsuit I've ever done, because I'm not a litigious guy, but the previous apartment I lived in, I ended up having to sue because they just straight up took my deposit, and they gave me this list of things that was just like BS things that no, like literally, I am not kidding here. One of the things they listed of why they took the deposit is when you opened up the dishwasher, There was a little like pea-sized, like quasi, not even a rust spot, but like a little brown spot, pea-sized brown spot on the inside of the dishwasher. And I was like, you could have wiped that away with a wet cloth and you're charging me for that? Like it was ridiculous. And I ended up winning. And it's just like, uh, I even remember I wrote them. I wrote their lawyer. I was like, because I gave him like $1,600. It was like $1,625 in a deposit. I was like, look, if you guys just give me $1,000 back, you can keep the $625 plus the $50 a month pet fee I paid, plus the $300 pet privilege fee I paid. You can keep all that. Just give me $1,000 of my deposit back, and we'll call it a day. And they were like, no, the client wants to blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right. So I took them to court and I won like $4,200. So I was like, you should have just given me the $1,000 and you wouldn't have had to pay me the $4,200 and pay your lawyers for their time. Right. But those protections are,
Doing the small claims.
yeah. Yeah. But those protections are necessary because a lot of folks, like I had the fortunate that I work from home and I have the time to be a pain in the ass and like work with a lawyer to like sue them. But like a lot of people who are in a really disadvantageous position wouldn't even know how to start and they wouldn't be able to really help in that degree. Um, so yeah, and I mean things like weekends. We talked about the unions, the SAG after, like those unions are super important. One of the things I bring up too, you're hitting on a lot of like really interesting questions, but I always bring this up for people who are like really solidly kind of, we'll say like conservative right in like an economic sense, is even Wealth of Nations, written by Adam Smith, which is like the book about modern capitalism. It's where you get the invisible hand of the market and all that, those phrasings from. I have the book over there. Even Adam Smith in the first chapter and peppered throughout the entire book, which is like 1,500 pages of dense finance econ stuff, so no one's going to like really read it. He's very clear that the free market requires a government to be able to constrain it, to put guardrails on it, because otherwise the power in a pure free market becomes too one-sided towards the corporations, and they'll be able to just get so much power that normal people won't be able to kind of fight against it. And so he even him, the most capitalist of capitalist people, says you need a strong government that's capable of creating guardrails for it. So I don't think it's too much to ask to build a society in which we're not constantly exploited all the time for our labor.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I tend to bleed pretty red, but I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you're exactly right. Just like we're kind of one like set of big lawsuits that is going on now and kind of continuously is like the terms of service stuff that no one can read because no one has that kind of time, and it puts unequal power in the hands of corporations to be able to hold us to whatever they want and take whatever they want.
Yeah. The I've said this, like just the burdens that are being placed more and more on us it's just becoming, it's like no wonder we're all exhausted and frustrated. It's because all these burdens. I remember talking about like education or like higher education. There's a big attack on higher ed right now. But I was like, there was a time, not really in our lifetimes, but or at least in our working lifetimes, but there was a time where you could go to a job training program in which they would pay you to go. And then after you complete it, you would be given a job with that company. Like the company would pay to train you and then hire you. Nowadays, we have to pay an insane amount of money, whether it's a vocational school or college or whatever, to get the training, get the degree on the off chance we might get a job when we graduate. And so it's like all these burdens are being placed on us because of this, in my opinion, this false belief that like moving everything towards a pure free market is going to open things up. But there's just some things that don't function well in a free market. Healthcare is a perfect example of something that does not function well in a pure free market. But then on top of that, there are some things that just don't need to be part of the free market. And that's where the government can come in, where the government can provide a lot of goods and services and building out infrastructure and things like that, that doesn't require a return on investment. Like it's an investment in people and the country, but but the government itself, excuse me, swallowed something. The government itself doesn't have to make money on it. So, like
Mm.
roads, like the government doesn't have to make money on roads, but those roads allow industry to exist, right? Or like I always
Hmm.
poke at Amazon's easy to poke at because Jeff Bezos, blah blah blah. But like, think about Amazon. Jeff Bezos could be the smartest motherfucker in the world, right? But without the trillions, the tens of trillions of dollars in investment that we all have put in over the generations in roads, bridges, seaports, airports, electricity, public safety, and of course the internet, which was a government DARPA invention, Amazon wouldn't be anything. Amazon wouldn't even exist without all of that. And I think people tend to forget that virtually every large particularly technological progress, but pretty much every large innovation to ever exist started as a government project in some way. And then this includes like cancer research, pharmaceuticals. So it's important to remember like there's a two sides to these coins where like these two things, like the government can kind of venture into spaces where there's no necessary or clear return, like financial return. And then it builds that foundation up that industry can then build off of when the financial return becomes more clear, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because we need the roads to be finished this century
Yeah.
because government is incredibly inefficient and having your commute screwed up for
Yeah.
years on end is not fun. It's very frustrating.
Yeah. Well, I think it's where you spend your money is where your priorities are, and the answer, like to creating infrastructure, is not to remove the money from it, because then nobody's going to create the infrastructure, and it's just going to get worse and worse, in my humble opinion. But we could talk about this all day. I know we are now 35 minutes late for your meeting, so
As long as as long as the industry thinking of getting stuff done per quarterly, maybe even bi-weekly milestones instead of dragging it out.
yeah.
There's a meeting of the minds that probably needs to happen.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing again about the like left, right, blue, red kind of thing is at the end of the day, like I said this a couple days ago, where it's like, so just think like MAGA people in general, like there are legitimate complaints and concerns that that group can have or fosters. I just don't think Donald Trump is the way to navigate that. And I think that the continual sort of infighting amongst Americans just sort of hides what's actually kind of going on. So like while us normal folks, us plebes, are arguing amongst each other, it's like the bank's being raided, like they're taking the money out of your pocket while we're arguing about which one of us gets a can of Coca-Cola or something. Like it's just the focus that we have needs to be reshifted. And so like that meeting of the minds kind of thing, where ultimately it's just like people need to be like, all right, we're done with this. We're not doing this anymore. We are not going to slave away at, even now, this sounds silly, but like I saw a thing about Dolly Parton. It was like Dolly Parton sang 9 to 5 like 30 years ago, that song, 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like now we're working 8 to 5, because now we don't get paid lunches anymore. So it's like, and when she was singing about how shitty it was to work a 9 to 5 job and sort of be this slave to the corporate machine, it's even worse now because now we're working an extra hour. And that's not even counting the fact that most salaried employees actually work more like 50 to 55 hours a week than they do 40 hours a week. And I guarantee you're not seeing any of that profit come back to you,
Right. And men and women have to work, or before a single income many years ago could satisfy a household.
Yeah. Yeah. There was an article,
Yeah.
Europe and We're all neighbors here, so we're all kind of in the same boat. But in Ohio, the family income needed for a family of 4 to live comfortably, which is and roughly match what the purchasing power was in the mid 90s, is $220,000. I don't know a lot of families of 4 that are making $220,000. So it ain't getting any better. But maybe it can.
No.
Maybe we can make it get better.
Maybe we can. Let's leave it on that good note.
Yeah.
Maybe you can with your leadership.
I'm just trying to help people, and I'm just trying to make. I just want people to be honest, and I think we need to have honest conversations about where we are, and set our priorities in a way that will help people. So I don't think that's too much to ask.
It is a noble thing to aspire to.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that was 35 minutes of me rambling. So hopefully people enjoyed it. Nothing really about video games, but here we are.
We did some. Throw it in a bunch, get the clips.
Yeah.
Put them on your different socials. Boom.
Yeah. I'll just, when I'm editing it, I'll just double time the video so it sounds like a chipmunk, but gets it all in there. Well, hopefully your colleagues aren't mad that I took up 35 minutes extra of your time.
Hopefully they're watching. But yeah, I'm going to go get to work.
All right, sweet. Well, Caitlin, thank you so much for being on. Everybody, this has been episode 72 of the Sandbox Space Weekly Podcast. I appreciate you all watching. On behalf of myself, Pumpkin, the chat, Caitlin, we will see you next week. Take care, everybody.
So much, Chris. Bye, chat. Bye, everyone.